Hey guys, it's District 1 County Commission time. We got Dr. Lundy here. We're going to talk about some stuff. Really have no specific plan or topic of what I'm talking about because that's what I do. But I have Lundy now. I've got Massey later this morning, and then I've got the baseball set up this afternoon. So I don't know. Stay tuned. We got lots of stuff going on. But I'll do a short intro because I'm sure Dr. Lundy has better stuff to do than listen to my theme song. Good morning.
Good morning. I was really want to start dancing when you
Okay, fine. It's still going. We can go.
We can do the electric slide or something. So, a big party post-COVID. I'm feeling that's the song
one of these
that
days.
we start off with.
All right. I'll take that. I'm not a particularly skilled composer, but I have my moments where some things fall together in a good place, and that's that. So what's new? Tell me about what's going on in the world, because I think I'm suffering from too many things to keep up with, which is true of the whole thing. But the further I've gotten into this, the more I'm trying to what did I talk about them last time? What's going on? I forgot. So you help me. Give me some topics. Let's talk about some stuff.
Oh, wow. So much is going on. So county commission has definitely been an eye-opener and a challenge. As soon as we got sworn in, the whole Board of Health issue started taking over, but we're getting through that. It's calmed down a lot since we've been on Zoom. Other things going on in the world is, baseball stadium discussions.
All right, well, let me jump in on that first part. When has there been conversation about when you're going to go back to in-persons?
Well, we have a community forum, so I don't know if anybody knows that, because, we can't really discuss stuff like that without public notice, but there's a community forum online that Chairman Jay kind of polled us to ask us, are we ready for in-person or do we want to stay on Zoom? Governor Lee did extend the orders to the end of April, if I'm not mistaken. So I think most of the commissioners want to go back. I don't know when. I haven't seen the final vote yet.
Yeah, because
maybe this month or next month.
Guys, so is today the work day and the next week would be the meeting, or am I a week ahead?
No, it's third and fourth.
Okay.
Third Mondays or work session.
Okay, so we just came out. Okay, this is I started doing city council, and so I'm starting to conflate everybody's meeting dates and stuff like that.
I know. I wish we can be on one accord, right? We need a master calendar to keep up with everything.
Well, I'm an advocate for metro government, so it would be one calendar if it was one government.
I'm joining you with that. I think it's a great time to do it. I think we can run more efficient and having more than one department to do the same thing, especially when I'm in a district that I'm all in the city.
Right. Yeah,
so it becomes a battle of who's going to take care of it, Dasha or a Vice Mayor McKenzie, or
exactly. So okay, so let's stick on that for a second, because this is one that's particularly interesting to me. So if it's a zoning issue and it's in the city limits, the city council will take care of it. If it's a zoning issue and it's in the county, which you don't have any of, so I mean, obviously you vote on countywide zoning issues, but for your district, there is no zoning or use-ment conversation you get to have.
No zoning and no beer board license.
Right. And so, because again, I'm trying to think of what all, because again, that's one of the things that confuses me. Like, I get it in a smaller scale, like a Farragut, since it's a much smaller footprint and a much smaller count against the county population, because we're just under half of the county is in the city limits, right?
Yeah. So I think that's what the frustration is for this, being from what I heard from our elders, is that the county feel like they don't have to do anything for District 1 because it's in the city.
Right.
So we're funding the projects in the District 1. They feel like the city should do it. It's kind of like a battle of who's responsible.
Right, and is it clearly stated anywhere who's responsible?
No.
So right, and which is
I feel like it's just one of those things. If Vice Mayor can't tend to it, then people call me. I'm like, well, I mean, it's kind of like mom versus dad. Your kids come to you, Daddy, can you do this? Okay, Daddy says no. Well, I'm gonna go to Mama and see what she say.
Right. Or they go to mom first because mom says yes more than dad does. So
Yeah,
we
so
start with
it's
the one
according.
that's a little bit more easily influenced or something like that. And again, that's what I have no like. Again, I understand it on certain aspects, but if there's no clear definition on who's what, then I think it's a breeding ground for situations like you're talking about. Like it's maybe not intentional, but it's at least it's maybe an oversight at the time of creation that we didn't clearly break down. This is what this person is in charge of and over, and this is what that person is in charge of and over, and
Mhm.
and even the relationship between the city and county being clearly defined as, sidewalk projects are a city thing. I'm not making stuff up. I don't know if it's true or not, but at the time we say, sidewalks, beautification, XYZ are city issues.
Mhm.
County's influence on city stuff covers XYZ differently or
Mhm.
something like that. And so, right, and I don't know. Again, like and Jesse from the Compass put it best because he lives in the city. He's like, well, I pay county taxes too, so I need somebody representing me. It's like, well,
Mhm.
I agree with that, except what are they representing you on? Because the biggest thing to me, as I'm getting further into this, land use is the 99% of what the importance of what you guys do.
With county, yeah, that's the big, yeah.
Right, and even
When,
city for that matter.
mhm.
Talking to the city people, it seems to be that like the biggest, the majority of their agendas at least are land use, zoning, permits
Mhm.
for projects and stuff like that. And so
Mhm.
you know, like you said, for District 1, everything in District 1 is within the city limits. So Mackenzie's taking care of all the land use stuff, which is half of what you do.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
all right. So again, so the big land use one, as you mentioned in the what's going on, is the baseball one, and that is your district.
That's my district, and that's, I guess, that's when we're all coming together as city and county,
Right.
because who
What?
needs the money?
Right. Right. Exactly. It's like it's a lot of money. So if we split it up between the two bodies, maybe it doesn't seem like as
it,
much money.
it it won't be that bad, right? If we
Right.
can get along long enough to make a decision.
So on the baseball project, what are you hearing from your neighbors in your district on their thoughts of it? Since they'll
It's very split.
okay.
Some people do not agree with using taxpayers' money to build a stadium, and others are saying we need it for economic growth. It would transform
Okay, let me
each
try
and
the question. Let me.
every.
I'm sorry, but let me try the question a little differently. Um, Regardless of the financing project part of it,
Mhm.
is because this is because I'm the same. I guess to clarify what I guess I'm getting at is that for me, I want the baseball stadium,
Mhm.
but the conversation about how we're going to get it is a separate thing. So I guess on the first part of it, like, is everybody excited about the idea of having it? It's just a matter of how we're going to do it, or is it there are people that truly don't want it down there at all?
There's people that truly don't want it.
Okay, because I was
And I
reading.
think some people just don't like baseball. So they're like, why, you got to think of everybody's perspective. Like, I don't go to baseball games,
I
so
don't go
why
to
do I
baseball
want
games
it?
either.
So it's just kind of one of those things that, some people just don't want it. Like, who cares about baseball? But
I figured. So I was thinking about this, and I think tickets are like $14 out there in Sevier County or something like that. They're pretty cheap.
mhm.
Um, I would say I think the one of the things we should insert into the program is that every county resident gets one ticket a year,
Okay.
because essentially that'll offset what it averages out. I mean, I think I figured it out over the 30-year bond. It's about $20 a resident
Mhm.
every year. So if everybody gets a ticket a year, you get your money's worth, sort of. It doesn't really finance like that, honestly, but at least that would put something behind it. I don't know, just fleeting thought I had. Okay, so then to go to the other one, so your district's having the same conversation everybody else is.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
because my joke right now, and it's a joke I've told a couple times, is, as I mentioned, I'm having the project team in later today to talk about them. And my goal in the conversation is not to talk about the baseball stadium at all, but to shift them into doing a project for me.
So what's your project you trying to do?
I don't know. I'll make something up. It doesn't matter if it gets me $30 million.
Oh, okay.
If I
So
can do a business and have a big chunk of my business paid for by the city and county, why not? And it's a joke, but at the same time, it raises the question of why this one.
I get it. I understand. So are you trying to say that, are we only doing special favors for people who are very wealthy? Or
May,
should everyone have the opportunity? If
right.
if
What?
Seth Barber owned the land in the old city,
Right. What is the definition of why certain people get the opportunity to do these things or not? Like, I understand it. I understand it on different levels. I get it. We have Amazon coming in, and whatever may or may not be going into Easttown. That one keeps floating. Like that one keeps. There's a veil on that one that we don't get to know who's the developer is building it for yet, unless it's come out in the last couple of days. But last I heard is that there's a developer in on it, and you and the city have been working on zoning issues to make it available for this developer to do what he wants, but we don't get to find out who the developer is yet. But Amazon's going into Maryville. We did the thing with Regal to move them downtown. I understand that these things occur. It's just I take a pause every once in a while and go, why these and what brought these in, and how does the decision get made that this particular group gets this benefit from the community?
Yeah, and it's usually based on how many jobs they're going to create. When you get those special privileges.
Right. I don't know. I mean, I got to think of something that I could theoretically at least present as like 400 or 500 jobs or something like that. That's what I need to work on. I got 5 hours to figure it out. So if you have any ideas, let me know.
I definitely have faith in you. I think you can do it. I think you should build an amusement park.
Yeah, well, when I was in high school, I went to Bearden out here in the west side of town, and when I was in high school, that intersection at Cedar Bluff and Kingston Pike, those two big lots where there's the Kroger and the Main Event now, we're still that little farm that'd been there forever. And I thought it'd be super cool if you built an amusement park there, and you had a bridge that came over so people could walk from side of the park to side of the park, then have some roller coasters that go over the road. That'd be super cool. But
that would be cool. Well, I mean, I think the end goal with any development, especially, on that vacant land or anywhere, that, you're trying to bring people together.
Right.
And then we can think about that, bringing people together and also creating jobs for people.
Right. And that's the question about the baseball stadium particularly, is how is that going to, how is the spread going to work out for the neighborhoods around it? Old city's old city. It'll be fine either way. It doesn't matter. But the actual place right there behind the Waggles where it's going, and then as it spreads towards Magnolia and Hall of Fame and all, as it spreads that direction, that is the impact that is what we're looking for. And then
that's the impact that I think we have to get in a longer and deeper conversation about, because because I know somebody's going to say something, although this is not considered removing people from property, people are still suffering from urban renewal.
Right.
Removal. And my fear is that property values will go up, and people.
That's the point, right? That's part of the point of it is and that's it. And fear or not, that is part of the point, because again, for anybody in the county or city, this is us investing in future gains in taxes, and sales tax will probably be the bulk of it, but property tax will be part of the game too. And for that property tax to go up, it has to raise the value of the property. It in and of itself will be a large increase in property value. But
but what happens to all the people? Like, if you take out the downtown resident, the median income from when I last checked, when I was running for office for District 1, was about $23,000. I'm sure it's lower if you take out the downtown people, because of course they probably make a good amount of money to live downtown.
Right.
So what do we do? That's the question. What do we do?
Right. I don't know. This is one of those that I super struggle with across the board, because there's no way that this happens and it doesn't affect property value and it doesn't move some people out. Now the question is why and how it moves the people out, and then where do those people go? And so I don't know.
And that's when it's become a battle of race, because you have most of your Black population living in the district. So then that's another layer to what I call a war.
Right. And so if I put some thought into this, but not enough probably to really speak well on it. But it's a how do we, because it's early March now, so we just came out of Black History Month, and so we've had a lot of more conversation about some of the history of the racial issues locally and nationally and all that kind of stuff. And I know it's a super broad question, but like, what's the long term? What's the what's the goal, and how do we achieve a goal of trying to, there's racist people, they're going to exist, fine, whatever, we can't do anything about that. But the more, especially the historical issues that are kind of gotten people stuck, and just pushing them somewhere else is certainly not going to fix that. But, how can we use a project like this to try to bring that community up to the more level playing field that is the goal?
Right.
Because
is that the goal? Is that your goal, or is that the goal? Do you believe that's the goal for that project?
I don't believe it's it's not implicit, at least, that that's the goal in the project, but that's the question, is if we as a community care about this issue, how do we use a project like this to help work towards that goal as a community? Because who cares if it's the goal of the project or not? It's if it's the goal of the community and the community that it's going to permit said project, how do we bring that part in? Because even on the broader scale, without this project, that's a question I've been pondering, and don't have really good answers, and haven't read enough on to really understand. But an increase in property value is a good thing for the people that own the property,
right?
But when it gets to the point that the people that own the property can't pay their taxes anymore, then that's a problem. But I guess what I'm getting at is, like, what is because I don't know. One of my favorite podcasters is one of his, like, kind of standard things on this kind of topic is, we got to bring it up to a level field and make it easier and make it more functional, and just accepting that this is the low rent portion of town and this is the low property value portion of town isn't necessarily a long-term fix either, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And so how do, like, again, regardless of the baseball project, how do we as a community figure out how to correct for some of the historical errors that have gotten us to where we are?
Promoting equity. And I think that's the conversation that we have to have. I think that's whether or not there's a stadium or not. I like what you're saying. We were at that moment in time that we have to have these difficult conversations more now than ever.
Especially locally. This year has been unbelievable in some of the violent crime going on.
Yes. So, and I think people's hearts are being transformed and open to have this conversation. I mean, it's sad that, we had to wait to 2020 when a pandemic and then George Floyd happened for people's hearts to realize, like, oh my gosh, we are in trouble.
Right. So that brings up one to me that has become a kind of a hotter issue for me is as a county, as the county that we're talking about, I'm not a big fan of the sheriff's office having zero. I mean, well, other than checkbook issues that you guys get to do in commission, having zero local oversight. That bothers me. As I keep joking about my metro idea, I at least on this particular, if we were to go metro, I would go KPD takes over and put the sheriff's office into just the detention center and, like, serving warrants or something like that, because I think we need a better, more involved local influence on our policing than the state level, essentially the state that the sheriff works for. I'm not a big fan.
So what does your group of friends and I call your tribe, the people you hang around, are they for metro?
No, everybody makes fun of me.
Oh, so you're a little oddball like me.
No, I think the problem is I get lost between the politics and the governance. I don't care about the politics and I care about the governance, not the politics. And so a lot of people when I'm talking to, they talk about the difference in kind of philosophical makeup of the city and the county and the residents thereof. And I understand. Talking
about Republican versus Democrat.
Sure. I mean, and or just to the general premise is why would a body that holds power give that power up, even if it's better for the people they have power over?
Yeah, but that we could be making people suffer a little
Right.
bit more.
But again, but
But
that
I mean, I understand what you're saying. People love their position and their power and their money, but sometimes we have to do what's best for the people.
right, and that, but again, it's one of those that if I were to construct a whole proposal, I have to get, all the people involved, and it's like why, I understand why the politics say it shouldn't work, but I don't care about the politics. It's about the governance and whether it's the right thing for me and you and our neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
or maybe not even the right thing is the right word, whether it's better for me and you and our neighbors.
Right.
And that's how I look at it. I look at it as a purely governance conversation. Everybody goes into the politics side of the conversation, and I understand it. I get it, but I don't care about that. Like I went to the GOP meeting this weekend just because it was curious and it's fun, and I had some content for it. I got to write a news article, and that was weird. I'm not a writer.
Well, I've seen that. I seen your comments in the Compass this morning. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Like I think that's one of the things that started to crystallize for me as through doing the podcast and through doing the things that we do on the podcast is I don't care about the politics.
Mm-hmm.
So when I guess it was Burchett that made reference to we have an openly Marxist city council member or something like that, who I don't know who he was referencing. I don't know where he got the reference from. I don't really care because that's politics. That's the rhetoric game of politics. That's what politicians do, air quotes. And that doesn't matter because that's just a game that's being played for the power. That's not a game that's being played for me and my hopes and desires and what I want for my community. And so that's something that's crystallized for me is the difference, the stark difference between governance and politics, and trying to figure out where the line is, where the politics end and the governance begins, because the way politics or the way governance has become, you're always campaigning for your next election, and so you're always playing politics even when you're in government. Not everybody, obviously, but that's kind of become one of my issues. And again, going back to where we started on that in the metro idea is it's not about politics to me. It's not about who controls what. Is this structure more beneficial for me and my neighbors?
Yeah, to have effective government, like
right. Because again, like
validating because we have two engineering departments. Just
right.
I don't know if we need all that.
And I think as I think about it, one of the things I think having two kind of legislative bodies that are keeping a maybe like a federal style system where we have two different bodies like we have now that interact as like a triumvirate for whatever like the federal government does, as opposed to having just one legislator. I see, and this is where I get confused on somehow it works, but we have a commission and a mayor for the county, and then we have a council and a mayor for the city. Well, how about one mayor, and then we still have a council and a commission, but we kind of change the way the districts work, and so we have kind of a checks and balance kind of game similar to the federal style. But like you said, getting one engineering department, one law department, one one planning commission, which we already do have, but and so streamlining the professional side of governance, but keeping the politics side for residential constituent interaction kind of the way it is kind of where my brain is going on constructing. And again, one of the problems I have in the conversation when I have Metro is that everybody has their model that they know of. Nashville usually being one of the bigger ones because it's semi-local. But everybody has their model, and that's what they assume when I say it. And as I go into it, I'm realizing how all the different ways you can do it. And so, what I really need to do is construct the whole thing and have all the points fine point the whole thing out. I just don't know enough at this point to have them all, to be able to break them down to get all the parts and pieces in place. But
we're still learning, so let me know.
Yeah, I will do my best. So the tragedy that has been the beginning of this year so far, and again, this goes into the where do you sit as a city leader in the ability to do much where, the KPD is the one that's going to cover most of your district, all of your district for that matter. So when you're talking about police relations and with your constituents, they don't interact with the sheriff ever.
Mm-mm.
Well, unless they get arrested and go to jail, because then the sheriff takes them. But you know what I mean. How do you get to have influence over that conversation?
Just being a voice in the conversation. When we unfortunately, you mentioned the murders that's been going on the past few weeks, but really trying to engage our mayor and our sheriff's department, like what can we do? And everybody, Mayor Jacobs and Sheriff Spangler, they want to help. But it's the point, like, okay, how do we get these people in the same room
Right.
to have conversation instead of having a battle of territories? Because the battle of territories don't matter when we're losing young lives.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And again, it goes back to the baseball part that we were talking about too. It's a why. Why are these things happening? These things are happening. It's not because person A hates person B that much. It's generally, it's not. There are the occasion, but for the most part, it's an economics conversation. Realistically,
it's a poverty. Yeah, when I looked up like what gun violence, like what's the root cause of gun violence from different national organizations, and it has to deal with poverty and racism, oppression. So yeah, so it's a lot, and I think we have to deal with our poverty. As you remember, I talked about that we had a 42% poverty rate among Blacks in Knox County. We have to deal with that issue, even though people will want to decrease that percentage. And that, for some reason, the 2019 census came out and said it was less than that. I don't believe that. And it's probably worse now with COVID. So many people lost their jobs, but it feels like, no one wants to have these hard conversations. And how do we get in this room to have the hard conversations?
right. I agree. I mean, I think and again, as I've played the game and talked to the different people, I don't know if you caught the Ron McPherson episode. I've been holding on to it since November. I was wanting to try to kind of put it together and make it more of a storyline instead of us just talking numbers. And I hadn't listened to it in a while, and so I went ahead and published it, and I re-listened to it because I'm got him scheduled for a couple weeks from now to talk some more stuff. And according to some of the statistics that he has through the different organizations that the school board does stuff. The number one indicator on successful schools has nothing to do with the schools. It has to do with the community around the schools and where they sit in the economic ladder. And so the worst, that's not the right word. That's not the word I want to use. But I think the way he said it was the higher percentage of. What is the word he used? It's going to drive me nuts. Anyway, the higher percentage of financially struggling, or not remembering the specific phrase, but the higher percentage of financially disadvantaged students and families correlates directly to the percentage of quality of outcome of education. So, so me trying to step back and look at the whole picture on this thing, because this takes both issues at hand, is our schools will do better and as our communities do better. The violence issue goes down as the community does better economically. And so to me, it's like, well, everybody's like, well, the teachers need to get paid more. We need more money in the school system. We need more cops on the street. We need more this, that, and the other on the different issues. It really comes down to we need to figure out how to make these communities wealthier, stronger. We need better economics happening, because that solves both of these major problems that are the number one problem, the number one and two, depending on who you talk to and which order, that people have. And so that to me is where is the focus on the how do we fix that problem, because that problem slides out and fixes and will help at least with the other problems that we have in our communities.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if we can get to the point that we have to start investing in these areas, but education, I mean, to me, education is where I think education is a great liberator for people. You educate people to think on a different level and expose them to opportunities so they can get that job.
Right, and the education one is a chicken or the egg,
Yeah. So and can we do both at the same time?
Right.
Can we create our own rule and say, how we educate the people, and also lead them to that place where they can be independent economically.
All right, so you win. I think I'm on the UBI train. We need to get UBI, and that takes care of everything.
Okay, cool. Sure.
I mean, I remember when I first heard, like, when Yang was running on that, and then I first kind of heard it and started breaking it down, and I was like, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. That was my gut reaction to it. But as the depth goes and as you get a little deeper into it, it makes sense. It makes some sense. I don't know if I'm 100% on board, but again, something we need. And one of the frustrations to me is it's the same problems with the same attempted solutions, and we still have the same problems on the other side.
Right, because we're not getting to the root cause. So that's why we continue in this cycle, because people want to just lipstick solutions. You just want to just kind of paint over the wall when we need to tear the wall down.
All right, so help me help you fix it. How do we do it?
We're going to get everybody together and we're going to lock each other in the room and we can't leave till we solve it.
With mushrooms.
With mushrooms.
I think that'll help.
Okay. Well, I'm bringing chicken wings. So
well, all right. Well, then I'm going. Then I have to go. That's been the hardest thing about being a dad is my kids can't handle spicy.
Oh man. Well, I'm sorry.
So I never get wings, or if I do, it's like Domino's wings.
You gotta hide them. Yeah. Oh yeah. Wait. Yeah.
Which they're not. I mean, honestly, they're better than they should be for being baked wings in a pizza place. But
well, yeah, I ordered Domino's wings.
They're not. Again, they're not terrible, but. All right. I could find you. I can help you find a food truck or something to handle your wings for the masses. But I guess we have to wait until we're all allowed to get together and lock ourselves in a room.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, and I know those tough conversations. I don't want to say they not happening. I know various organizations are having those conversations now more than ever, but I think it's just time to be more aggressive with the conversation.
I agree, and I think it's one of those that, like, we all inherently know it. It's always and always has been, and it's the same thing in politics and governance and everything else too. It's all about where the money is.
Yeah.
It's always they always make the joke in like crime shows and everything else. It's follow the money, follow the money, follow the money, follow the money. It's a little bit different in the sense that we're trying to follow the lack of money, but it's really, it's economics. Economics does all the at least has one of the highest impacts on all the things, and so if we can figure out that one, then it's going to be a little easier to fix the other ones, I think.
Yeah, and understand that, there were racist practices and policies that stem back from a long, long, long time ago that affected the generational wealth of people of color. So yeah, just being, open to those ideas without people who have that bootstrap mentality. Well, why don't they pick themselves up by the bootstraps? But that's what I get about Black people. And understand that, there were policies that keep knocking us down. I read, it was something on the news that came on the news this past weekend with a Black family, which was not in Knox County, was up north. They bought their land for $2,000 and they ran a resort. And I said, oh, they're entrepreneurs. This is the 1920s. And then the city decided to do eminent domain. I said, that's the issue that people need to realize, that family would have had generational wealth.
Right.
The city can take over, and those things happen. And they say that land right now is worth $75 million. So the county or city executive, they didn't call her mayor, she's thinking about giving the land back to the family, to the descendants. I'm like, well, that would be amazing opportunity for that family.
Indeed. Yeah, I saw that story. You posted that story on your Facebook page. It was Manhattan Beach or something like that.
Yeah, I like that, and I don't like to get trapped in that, because I don't want to lead my life with anger, but stuff like that it drives me nuts, because I like people are still thinking like that Blacks are at a level playing field. And I mean, just okay, we can bring it back locally with urban renewal. The studies show that were at least, I think, 10 businesses that were in business for over 10 years. So if you had a business for over 10 years, you're pretty much probably a sustainable business. And just think, if we would have still had those businesses today, would it have shifted our community?
Right. And absolutely, on some level, it would have, at least for those 10 families that are involved in that business, and that, and 10, however long it's been, that's generations at this point, which it's not 10 families anymore. It'll be 40 families. and what they go and start with what they have the ability and capabilities to go do because they have the support structure of the great grandparents or however that breaks down.
And then we will have more philanthropists, Black philanthropists, that can give to the organizations. I mean, it's so much. I can go on and on and on. I mean, even our wealthiest Blacks in our county is only like 41 people from last I checked that made 250,000 or above.
Right.
So that changes the game a little bit.
So hot wings in a room and not coming out till there's a solution.
Can we have tequila? Is that bad?
I mean, it is if I'm there.
Okay, well, you can't have any. So we're gonna have water. But I'm all for, I think let's take our political hats off. Let's take we have to pretend like we're these perfect people when we're not, and let's just come chill out, eat what you want, drink what you want, but really be serious about the conversation. I don't want to come as Commissioner Lundy. I want to come as a person that wants to transform our community.
Right, because I think one of the big things, and personally, in my personal history, a direct social interaction, a direct relationship is one of the easiest ways to get a better understanding of what's going on. You can't read about it. You need to know the people. Like I had, I have a in-law that is transitioned, and prior to that, or even during that process, I had no idea, and I was really I don't know what the nice way to call myself. I won't say transphobic, but I was just like, I don't know. My general philosophy is I don't care. Like, you do you, I'll do me, whatever. But that philosophy kind of tends to ignore how other people treat a person, and having conversations with her about what it was like and what it is like moving forward and stuff like that has opened the way I see the conversation much broader. Now, still in general, I don't care. You do you, I'll do me, whatever. That's my general philosophy on people. But we can't ignore that lesson taught me, if anything, we can't ignore the side effects of how other people are treated, for whatever is going on.
Correct, and that's what we done. We want know the side effects with everybody. If they don't fit into our bubble of what humans should be or act or believe, then we just throw them to the wayside and say they're not important. And we have to get back to respecting, having a basic respect of humanity. And we lost that as a nation, probably globally.
Right. And I think, I think on that one specifically, and this does fall a lot harder into my philosophy, especially politically speaking, is the only way we're going to do that is locally. There's no federal way. The White House isn't going to put a mandate out and all of a sudden that we're friends with our neighbors where we weren't before. That's just not how it's going to work. And so
I agree. It starts with us. It starts with me and you having this conversation. I probably wouldn't have been talking to you if I wasn't in politics and you didn't have your podcast. I don't know if we met outside of hanging out downtown. I don't know if we ever met before, but that's the thing. We have to get out of our circles, out of our tribes, and start having these real conversations.
All right. So my solution is we build a train. We need light rail so that the entire county becomes accessible to everybody.
As long as there's a DJ on there, I'm straight.
Okay, that's cool. I mean,
music. Gotta have music.
Well, I mean, it's gonna get. I mean, it's gonna. I mean, as long as they're. Yeah, it's gonna end up being like B97 or something though. That'll be lame.
Well, no, we have to have diversity in music now. So I guess we just gonna have DJs from everywhere. Everybody gets to hear their cultural music for the train ride. So let's do it.
All right, I'm in. I mean, that's what to me. That's one of the things to be. Again, that goes back to the Metro stuff. I think that's what it'd be. That the long term, it's super, super expensive to do light rail, but the long term of trying to make this into the metropolis that I believe it's gonna grow into, whether we want to or not. That's become my kind of thing. Is it's proactive. We got to be proactive. We got to be looking for what's next. If
and bring them what's next to here now.
Right.
Start building that foundation so we won't be running around like crazy like we did in 2020 when the pandemic hit and everybody went, virtual and the internet doesn't work.
Right.
So it's like, y'all, we should have known this and we should have been preparing for this a long time ago.
And so that brings us to, I guess, a philosophical bit of conversation is because I've gone back and forth on this myself on whether we should utilize broadband, for lack of a better word, whether it should fall under the category of a KUB or something of that, or wastewater and stuff like that, and says so that it is an obligation to have access, and whether there's a subsidy system we have to put in place to make sure it gets there or something like that, which I'm generally not a big fan of. But it is, at this point, it is, it is water and power. It is, you don't.
Because if you don't have technology, you won't survive.
Right. You don't. You don't exist in 2021 if you don't have any access.
Yeah.
It's just
so KUB is looking at that. So if you have any comments, they will love for you to email them.
Yeah, they don't want my email. I promise. They have enough. They have a poor enough track record. That's my issue. That's why I'm on the fence on this issue. Is like the premise makes sense to me, 100%. The idea of having it utilitized makes sense to me. But the history of issues with utilities and their lack of incentive to do good work, lack of incentive to innovate and put better product out there over time and stuff like that, especially in a technology thing like the internet, doesn't bode well to me. The one of my shops is up off Emory Road. We have Hallsdale for water. I'm sure you've heard about it. Everybody's heard about it. Everybody knows about it, but nothing seems to get done about it. Hallsdale is the most expensive water and wastewater ever to exist in the history of time. We have a toilet and a sink. That's all we have in our place, and we pay $60-$80 a month.
Oh wow!
For a toilet and a sink, and I throughout the day, I don't know, maybe 10-15 flushes, some hand washing. That's it. Yeah, we mop the floor a couple times a week or whatever. We clean the place up, but like the amount of water we use is not significant, and the amount we pay for it is. And it's been a complaint. And there's a community group that's trying to do something about it, but Hallsdale Palo has no incentive to do better because everybody has to have them. Like because
there's no competition,
right? I mean, and which is and in premise, I get it for utilities, especially water and wastewater. You can't have 6 companies tearing up the street every week to bury new line, but there's got to be some sort of oversight that ensures that it's not even taking advantage of that. They're doing a good job on it, because that's one of the questions that the Hallsdale one has, is that apparently the argument from Hallsdale is that when they took over whomever the utility was before, all the line was so messed up and all this different stuff, and so they've been investing and rerunning lines and doing all this stuff and costing lots and lots of money to do it, and so they're having to pass that on to stay afloat, and that is not at least the customer base that I know, myself included. I don't see that happening, and so it's like, how do we ensure that these companies aren't taking advantage of the situation they're in, because we give them the authority to do so, because it's important to us.
That's right.
And I personally have an issue that I'm pitching a fit about, and it's a state law issue, but I'm in the county. I have a septic system. My septic system's breaking down because it's old, and state law says that if septic is available to you, or if sewage is available, which it is now, that I have to hook up. And it's like, okay, I respect that. It's probably a better way to deal with my waste than my septic system and stuff like that. It's safer for my neighbors, blah, 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 whatever. But KUB gets to charge me $1,500 for access, and I get to pay $100 a month for wastewater that I don't have to pay right now. And it's like, I get, I could see the argument all over the place. I can see everybody's argument and where everybody sits in the conversation, but I don't go to DMV and pay a cover charge to then go in and get my driver's license. I just pay for my driver's license.
That's license, right.
And so it's
always like a fee to pay for something else.
Right. And so it's
you get the job done.
Right. Not to mention the $6,000-$7,000 it's going to cost me to run the line to meet the KUB line when they put it in my front yard. But
right.
And so it's one of those. That's the concern with utilitizing things to me. Is that, and I know we do as there is a commission or a board or council or whatever it is that's under Mayor Jacobs' office that is supposed to oversee the KUB, it's supposed to be some sort of oversight on our local utilities, but it doesn't seem like anything's happening.
Yeah, city really oversights KUB, but yeah.
Yeah, and so like I've got a sheet that I got from the commission secretary of all the different boards and bodies that either the state requires, the county charter requires, and who assigns them, and all that kind of different stuff. And it's a long list. It's a very long list of people. So anyway, I don't know how we got onto broadband conversation, but
I mean, it's important. I guess we got on it because it was more about like, we know the issues and we need to make sure we're looking into the future. And what do we need to do now instead of waiting to the last minute? What infrastructure do we need to build now to make sure that we are preparing a community for the next generation? So we get off ourselves and what we think and how we feel, but how can you make this community better for your children?
Right.
That puts us on even ground.
Right.
To me,
it's no more Band-Aids. It's no more fixing problems as they arrive. It's looking forward to.
It's tearing down walls, throwing out the bricks, restructuring some things, and doing the work. And it's not easy work.
Right.
It's stressful. Community engagement. I realize that people don't really like community engagement because you're putting yourself at risk of being yelled at and cussed at all the time. And a lot of people don't like that. But we have to have those little things, and some people may say something really hurts, but sometimes we have to look within ourselves, like, is there something that I need to change? Is it a mindset that I'm stuck on that's not really good for people?
Right.
Am I selfish?
Well, I think I maybe this is a question I don't know the answer to because I haven't been to a ton of meetings, especially this year. When you look around the room, when you go to commission meetings, the Board of Health thing is such an anomalous one, realistically. But like, I guess you didn't have any before all that was happening. So I don't know if you're the right person to ask this question to. But like, it seems to be at least on the periphery that there's only a short list of people, and short meaning probably a couple hundred, but a short list of people that is super active and super engaging whenever the opportunity for the public to engage comes up. Does that make sense? Like, I think one of the problems is, and especially with people being unpleasant, is that there's not enough people playing the game, I guess is what I'm getting at, is that if more people are playing the game, and I think lack of engagement is one of the issues. Those who are engaging are set on engaging, and I don't know. That's my hope for the podcast, is that I think there's too many people that don't pay attention anymore, I guess is what I'm getting.
And that's what, we're at the same point. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, I'm grateful for you for doing a podcast, because you didn't start it thinking that I know everything about politics and government, and I'm going to tell you how it is. But I can see that you're learning, and to me, that's way more inspiring than you coming out thinking you know everything and telling people your thoughts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm 100%
and that's where we should be. I mean, I think as I sit back and reflect, I think people would be more engaged if they knew what to say. Some people are so fearful, like, oh, I don't know. I don't want people to think I'm dumb.
Right. See, that is my special talent, is that I'm very comfortable in my dumbness.
Like, don't know. Yeah. Right. And somehow we have to get to that point. It's like, it's okay not to know, but just show up. And that's how I started, with the neighborhood group. I had no idea. I didn't even know what zoning was. I didn't know there was like a planning. I didn't know anything, but I just showed up because I had a question for myself. It's like, why does East Knoxville, and that's because I grew up in East Knoxville, that's why I'm asking the question, why is it Martin Luther King Avenue looking so blighted, and then nothing's changed? I'm 41 years old and it's been the same all my life. So I just started asking that question. I'm like, well, I'm just going to go to a meeting. I'm just going to do this. And then just learning as I went. And if we can get more people to figure out what is frustrating them, go find out about it.
Right, and realistically, you go find out about it. You get the answers. You get to engage. You get to answer questions. And then when
Yeah.
results starts happening, there's a pride issue. Or not issue. That's not the right word. There's a pride that starts going into it. It's like, not that I did that, but I helped make that happen. And,
Right.
your neighbors who may watch you do it and think you're an idiot, and they're like, oh, it's the government. They're not going to do anything for you, blah, blah, blah. They get to see, oh, there are things that can be done. You can influence what's happening around you. And, you can keep... we as a community suck at engagement, and we let the powers that be run amok, for lack of a better word, and getting engaged and holding people to account. That is our job as constituents. That's our job as good neighbors, is to engage. And I think that's where we fail. And I think you're right. I think people being afraid of being dumb or not knowing what's going on and not feeling like they have, there's a fine line in there where, at least acknowledge your ignorance and then present what you think. Because if you just present what you think, it can come off as very when you don't know something and you're telling somebody what to do. Yeah, but at least if you acknowledge that you don't know it, right.
Come with a humble spirit and and say, like, I may not know a lot, but this is what I'm thinking. I think that makes people in the room like, oh, okay, I'm gonna listen. But if you don't come with that humble spirit and you need to be doing A, B, and C because of this, and you don't know what you're talking about, that's when people disengage.
Right. I think I don't know. I don't remember. It might have been the Buddha or Confucius thing or whatever. It's something along the lines of the smartest man is the man that knows he doesn't know something. I might have I paraphrased that, butchered it. I apologize for anybody who knows the correct quote. But when I had Marty from Carecuts on, she was very self-deprecating, and it was very frustrating to me when she was talking about it. She's like, "I'm not a super smart lady," and it's like, no, the fact that you know you're not smart is what makes you smart. You go and find the people that can help you with the specific things instead of just powering through it and doing it yourself. Because through the process, you've learned how to do things you didn't know you could do.
Yeah.
You've gotten a group. Carecuts is a great organization, and she's got a group of people around her that can help her do the things she can't, but get the goal done.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, "Well, I don't know how to keep the books on a 501c. I can't do this." She said, I don't know how to keep the books on a 501c. I'm going to find somebody to help me do this. And now she's doing it. And I think that's one of those things that people fail at in general. It's like, you're allowed to not know stuff. It's fine.
Right. And the doors were open. I think we have to do a better job at not just educating, but also empowering people. Like what you're doing with the podcast, you are empowering people. They're listening to us like, I don't agree with none they saying, but it's still going to empower them. Like, you know what? I'm going to research and see if she was right or he was right about that topic. I'm intrigued. And when people come to that space, when we're in person, if they say something that may not make sense or whatever, but still empower them and not dehumanize them or not embarrass them because they may not know what we think they should know, but always, be encouraging to people. And to me, our society has definitely demonized and dehumanized people, and that makes them more fearful and not want to be involved in stuff.
Right. And
that creates the anger that we have in our community because it's the language of the unheard.
Right. And eventually, there is a conclusion that will come about, and most people there's an eventuality of a poor outcome. Multiple ways that outcome can be shown, but they're generally things that we as a community don't like either.
Right.
When you get shoved in the corner or shut down or afraid to get involved and you kind of hide yourself away, eventually there's a bad outcome from that nobody likes, and that's how we get.
Yeah, because your voice was missing. Something may not have happened if the collective voice came in. But we just have to, even through our frustration, we still have to be willing to communicate and voice our opinion and empower others.
100%. So my official question when I get an elected person on, because one of my complaints and one of the reasons I do the podcast is I don't seem to get enough information from the other news sources locally, what's something specifically going on in commission right now that maybe is not getting any airtime that you think it should?
Right now, the Board of Health issue is going to come up in April.
Right.
That really is the main thing. Last month we had a big zoning issue with someone wanting to build houses out near off of Beverly Road. Um, but you know, I wish more people paid attention to zoning because that's how we build.
Right.
That's how Knox County is developed. And I think if people understood that, we would be in a different place.
I agree because I don't understand that at all, and that's one of those like it's generally the majority of your agenda.
Yeah, I mean, how you develop, where houses go, where jobs go. I mean, it's just it to me is that's the power.
So I
Uh,
guess so what's the process then when there's because it's always if it's already in place for it, then there's no conversation. It's something that's trying to do something differently than what the original planning was set up for, right?
yeah, yeah. So if someone's trying to change the zone from industrial to residential, then you have to go through the planning commission. So I mean, I wish, you know, I really wish people would go to the well, now you can watch it on Zoom, it makes it so much easier. I mean, watch it on well, I guess a lot of things are on CTV that people may not know about. But just like really just engage and just come in the room and just sit and listen. I think it's the best thing we can do. But I know I'm went off topic, but
Oh, you're fine. Like, again,
right now, right now we're kind of calm right now, but there's something coming up that's probably controversial for our next meeting. That's about the merit council. But I think people have been covering that. Well, you know, with the compass with Jesse and his who is it? Scott Barker.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, they really do a good job at telling people what's going on. But I do understand that everybody is not, you know, subscribing to that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot, and I see why. You know, when I sit back, you know, I always sit back on Facebook and just kind of read what people are saying. I realize why people are angry, and just like what you said, that people just don't know what's going on. So when they don't know what's going on, they start making up stories.
Right.
Because we're not, including me, or not doing a better job at educating and letting people know. And how do we do that? I wish I had a whole staff person to do that.
Well, I think
that's the bad part about, you know, this could be a full-time job. You know, for us to be effective, it needs to be full-time.
Okay, that's interesting. That's something worth talking about. But I think to go back just a second, I think we as people like to get distracted. We like to, we like our sporting events. We like our escape things, and that's great. But I think one of the other issues at hand is that we get further distracted by certain issues that aren't real issues, or that have some merit to it, but it becomes the big hot button issue that doesn't need to. Now this goes like at least the most current example at least is not a local one; it's a state one with that House Bill 3 thing. I mean, it's one of those that it's such a hot issue, and there's so many people talking about it, and there's so much coverage on it. And it's like there's so much other stuff going on that has way more value to be the number one conversation at hand than this one.
Right, and sometimes media would just take that one piece of conversation,
right? And it's like
people get emotional about it, and next thing we're building a huge development that's going to take away housing.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's like
it's like, man, like that's not cool.
Right, we're having right there where I have my distractions. I go out and do, like, this has actually become my distraction from my day life. I like doing the podcast and stuff like that. But normal people that like, I'm going to the football game, I'm going to do this, I'm going to watch a movie. Those are my distraction things. But then when they do take the time to at least try to inform themselves and engage with what's going on in politics and governance around them, the number one story 9 times out of 10 doesn't seem to be a substance story. And it's a distraction from what they're actually seeking. You know what I'm saying? So we have our own normal distractions that are normal, but then when we want to engage, we are then distracted by stuff and not getting when we take the time to engage in politics and governance, we're distracted directly by what's going on in politics and governance. And that's a problem to me too. And I don't know. And again, that's why I've just started making that a standard question. It's like, what hasn't gotten news that should have? And everybody's had a pretty good answer so far. You know,
Mm-hmm.
some little tidbit here, like SEMA from the city was telling me about another development that they were trying to put in out here on this side of town, and all the different ins and outs of water and rainwater and flooding issues and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, that seems like that seems like something worth talking about. That's a multi-million-dollar complex that was going in a space that should have been able to handle it, and it got pushed around from neighborhood and stuff like that, organizations, and it fell through the cracks, and no conversation about it.
Yeah, and that's how I feel. That's why I say zoning, all that. I mean, putting the houses in. We need affordable housing, and we did vote on a bit controversial zoning issue last month. But people don't know that.
Right. That sucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if I can tell your listeners anything, please, the Planning Commission website is amazing. You can find out so much information from there. Have you had anyone from Planning Commission on your podcast?
I have not. That's not been on my radar yet. Outside of directly elected officials, I've schools are where I'm playing.
Okay. Okay.
But I'm happy to do it. I'll talk to anybody, anytime, anywhere. I have no issues. But just a person. I mean, just because of again, you're not wrong. Planning Commission has a lot of direct involvement in my life. But I got 2 kids in the school system, and and one of those things, like the schools one specifically, because and I already said it once earlier too, is that it's always more money is always the answer, and it's like I don't know. I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm just saying that's just the default, and it's like we need to start looking at different things. We need to start having different conversations.
And I agree, because my mama talks about, she's like, people have been talking about we need more money and raising taxes, and we've done it, and we still broke.
Right, exactly.
So it was more money to solve the problem, or is the way you use your money?
Right, because like there's been a lot of conversation right now about how property tax in Knox County hasn't changed in 20 years or something like that. And so it's like, okay, should it have? And if so, why? And it's like it's just, well, it hasn't happened, so it should have happened. Well, no, that doesn't. That is not an equation that is a necessity, because in that time frame, more people have come to town. There's more houses being built. Blah blah blah. All this different stuff's happening. So we're making more money now than we were 20 years ago. We have more people, but it should be semi-relative, right? It should be for every 100 people we make X number more dollars because of the property. More properties are being developed and built into, and because we're not changing property taxes, but property taxes still exist, and so I don't know. It's just like that kind of generic process frustrates me. That it's just generically, it's like, well, taxes haven't gone up in 20 years, so they should. Well, no, taxes haven't gone up in 20 years. Should they? It should be the way we have that conversation. Not, well, it hasn't happened, so we should. I don't know.
Because so say, oh, we need more money, but
do we?
But
that's the thing.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm like, do we? That and that's one of those things. Like, we have gotten, our life has just gotten so automatic. Like, you just do this because that's what it says, but we don't do a good job at reflecting and looking deeper at an issue to make sure we're doing the right thing.
Right.
Because that's too much work. And who has the time, right? But that's where we really have to go if we're going to make some things work.
Right, because exactly.
Another big issue still is zoning. Pardon Valley is busting out at the seams. Like, we need to figure something out for that community. They're so frustrated because developers are coming out that way and they building these homes, and it.
So we do okay. So on that, we do the Planning Commission does like impact studies on a development, right? Mm-hmm. Like how many cars that's going to add to the roadway.
Yeah, the traffic study.
How many kids it should add to the schools that are out there, and that kind of stuff. Is there? I mean, I don't know. This is one that I should go deeper into, but like, is there, especially in a rezoning thing, where it can be sure, you can build the thing, but you foot the cost of this. Mm-hmm. Like, you want to build a you want to build a 100 division or 100 house subdivision or whatever, sure, but our math says it's going to put this many cars on the road. This intersection is going to need to add a stoplight. This road's going to need to add an extra lane, and the elementary school in the system will not be able to handle the kids that are going there. So we're going to have to add to this school. As a developer, you can develop your thing, but you need to chip in X for these different projects that are going to come as a result. I don't know if that's a thing. It's just a thought I've had because it's like it's because it's easy.
A thought, but yeah, the developer is going to be like, I'm up here help building houses because we need housing. Like we're taking that risk, and that I think that'd be a good thing to put on your show. A developer. I think you should get a developer on your show one day.
Well, I've been trying to get my one of my landlords from my business to come on to talk about how they price units.
Yeah.
Directly in kind of conversation about the baseball stadium. My dog is really upset about something. I apologize. Because the reasonable rent part of that conversation, I'm very curious about. And so I've been emailing back and forth to that landlord. I just want you to come on the show. So just talk about how you price. You build a shopping center and how you figure out how to price the square footage when you rent it out to businesses and stuff like that. Because to me, that would the logic would be that since we are buying and building this stadium, should price it out in a similar format. Maybe not as a high profit margin as he does, but I've thought about that part of it. I don't know. I'll give it a go. I'm not. I'll talk. Like I said, I'll talk to anybody anytime. Because I am curious how some of those decisions get made, and and just like anything else, they're going to play the game of how do I get away. Or that's not the right way to say it. How do I get through this process as efficiently as possible? And building a road down the street because my thing is going to impact that is not efficient for my building process. But I can't build my thing if I don't because the county says I have to. So deal with it. I don't know. It's just a thought I had. I don't know. Like again, I don't know what the rules are on what it means and how you are allowed and disallowed to. Because again, the libertarian in me is like, well, if you own the land, do what you want on it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the libertarian's personal responsibility, and so if your building causes issues, then you should voluntarily do your part to help that. But
that's why we have to get rid of the us versus them mentality. And how do we partner? That's all it is.
Right, but the baseball stadium is a good example of that too. Is that the word partnership, when it's a public-private one, tends to be in the benefit of the private side of that public-private partnership. But yeah, how do we? Right, I agree with you. I don't know. Again, that was the thought process. All right, last call. Anything else? What do you got? Tequila. Let's do it.
It's water because I'm about to go to work to see my patients. So
9 a.m. Monday morning, we're doing shots of tequila, people. Having a good time. See, well, the thing for me on tequila is I can drink margaritas. It's fine. But if I do a straight shot of tequila, I'm bad news for people. I can
only have straight. I don't like the sugary stuff. So, yeah. And I don't drink much, but, I take a sip or two. But I prefer everything straight.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This episode was brought to you by Tequila and hot wings.
I guess you need to work on your sponsors now.
I do. I'm trying. I just make stuff up. It's that. Yeah, that's the goal. I would like to retire into doing this. I would like to be full time, and this is what I do. But for now, I have a day job, and it's okay. I deal with it. But I have too much. It's just too much fun for me, and like we talked about earlier, it's just there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's hard to keep up with. And I'm not going to be a source to keep up with all of it. But me,
your lane. Yeah.
And for me, it's more about trying to know who the people are and how it works, and where to get involved and what to get involved with. It's people like to get on me for the long form, and it's like, no, the long form is the way to do it, because we're not going to start talking about an issue and be like, oh, our 2-minute segment's up, we got to move on. If we go 3 hours talking about what we're going to do for the economics of the Magnolia Chilhowie area or something like that, then we're going to go 2 or 3 hours on it. If I'm not going to cut it off because there's a clock. I hate having a clock in conversation. It's just
right.
It's not good for anybody.
And that's why you need food and drinks to calm people down and just be in a relaxed space.
All right. Well, I'm in when it's
talk about the issues.
When it's there, we could do it like a business expo. We can have different booths with different people on different topics. I'll buy a booth and put a podcast booth in there, and I'll just have I'll have a podcast that just runs the whole time. People can just sit down, we talk for a little bit, they can move on, and we'll have the longest podcast made in the history of time. All right, doctor, go drink your water, sober up, go to work.
Stop.
All right, everybody, here we go. District 1, Dr. Lundy doing her thing. Really appreciate her coming on, taking the time to chat it up with us a little bit this morning to talk about the different things. Because I think she's right, because I'm right, and that it's economics. It's all about economics. It's where we got to start. We got to figure out how to get people not afraid of tomorrow. That's a big step, is to try to get people that aren't scared of what's going to happen tomorrow because they're comfortable, that they have the things around them that they need. They have a house, they have money, they have food, and they have friends and family that they interact with and enjoy instead of being scared of tomorrow. So we appreciate everybody for listening today. We appreciate Ms. Lundy. almostinagreement@gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Our website is live, almostinagreement.com. All the episodes are there. Let me correct that. All the episodes will be there. I'm still putting in the back catalog, but all the new episodes are going on there, as well as your favorite podcast providers. If you have any questions, please shoot us an email. I got to reset the room and get ready for Senator Massey. So thank you to Dr. Lundy, and have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.